Robert Held is a friend of the Katie Phang news channel, and he's one of my personal heroes because he's a lawyer in Chicago. And he's somebody who could just mind his own business, quote unquote, and not get involved. But he's also one of the strongest and most vocal activists during this time when democracy is under attack. And he has been the victim of a crime. He was battered by an off-duty ICE agent by the name of Adam Siracco. And in the first of its kind, the Cook County DA's office is actually prosecuting this ICE agent for battering Robert while he was just exercising his constitutional right to videotape with his cell phone this ICE agent while at a gas station. I invited Robert to come here, tell us what's going on with that case, why it's so important for us to know about it, and also for him to get us caught up to speed on some other cases that he's involved with, because he's truly an inspiration and somebody who proves that you can make a difference one person at a time. And I am thrilled to be able to spend time again with somebody who I can now consider to be a dear friend and a fellow fighter in the democracy space, Robert Held. Robert, I feel like you need a cape now, like a superhero cape, because you are doing all things amazing. Thanks for joining us again at the Katie Phang News Channel.
It's such a pleasure to be with you, and I'm just doing my small part in what is a huge battle with millions of people, standing shoulder to shoulder to resist what Trump and the administration is doing.
Yeah, and just to remind people that may not be familiar or maybe have kind of a passing knowledge, Robert, you are a lawyer by trade, by training and experience, yet you're really kind of carving out a name for yourself as somebody, we use this word activist. I kind of don't really love that word. I mean, I understand it, but kind of to what you were just saying, it's somebody who frankly gives a damn about where this country is heading and wants to be on the right side of history. And something that happened to you recently, I really wanted to make sure was brought into sharp focus for our viewers. You have gone from Chicago Broadview, which is a detention facility that has become infamous for what happens there. You've gone to Whipple Federal. We'll talk about that in a second, in Minneapolis. You've gone to Dilley, which is also in Texas. I mean, you've gone a lot of places. But recently, when you were at Broadview, you followed who you suspected to be a federal immigration and ICE agent as they left Broadview. And I'm going to play now some sound for you. It's the body cam footage from the police when they rolled up after you had been battered by this ICE agent. But I want to play a small snippet of what he tried to explain happens. Let's play it now.
I'm assuming comes around over here. I said, "What are you doing? Why are you filming me?" I tried to grab his phone. I don't know who this is. It's my car. My car's my car. Okay. But I don't know who this guy is. Yeah. And I don't like him sticking a camera on my face. I want to know what he was doing with it. I want to get the picture and I wanted to delete it. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, Robert, for everybody to know, that man's name is Adam Siracco, Saracco. He's an ICE agent. And something that he said there had a little bit of truth, but really it didn't. So explain to people what happened.
Well, I was protesting at Broadview as I do from time to time. I determined to follow cars that were leaving the facility, and I followed his car. I obeyed the traffic laws. I didn't do anything in terms of violating any law in driving and following him. When he stopped for gas, I stopped. I got out of my car. He was filling his car with gas, and I started filming him. And eventually I gravitated to a public sidewalk. He looked at me. No words were exchanged whatsoever. And he put the gas pump down. He started walking briskly toward me. And then he broke into a jog or run, grabbed me, threw me to the pavement, aggressively tried to grab my phone as he was on top of me. I resisted with all my might to hold on to my phone and told him to calm down and de-escalate while cars started honking and people started yelling. And he got off of me. When he got off of me, I called 911.
Robert, what is remarkable about that interaction is the fact that this man, Siracco, Adam Siracco, actually is now being criminally prosecuted by the Cook County State Attorney's Office for one count of misdemeanor battery for throwing you to the ground and attempting to take your phone. And the reason why I wanted to play that clip, and I invite people to go and watch the entirety of the body cam footage, though, is Siracco's intent was very clear. He really didn't give a shit about being filmed per se. He wanted to get to your phone because he didn't want you to have his image or anything on his phone. And come hell or high water, he was going to do that, including committing a battery on you. It was legal for you to stand there on a public sidewalk and videotape him, was it not?
It is legal in Illinois to film when you're on public property, whatever the eye can see. And that's what I was doing. And look, let's be honest about it. I followed him out of a facility. He was off duty. He was apparently in his private vehicle. He was not enforcing immigration. He was filling his car with gas. But yet, it made him so angry that, he like we're talking about, just determined to throw me to the ground and really try hard to get my phone. I mean, to use all my might to keep my phone.
And, what's interesting, Robert, is that the police report, because the police showed up and they did an investigation. They spoke to him, the ICE agent. They spoke to you. They spoke to eyewitnesses, multiple that were on the scene. And according to the police report, and this was quoted in the New York Times, Sirocco yelled, quote, "You're following me." This was to you. "You can't just expect to follow people and not face consequences." I mean, Robert, that's particularly chilling considering what happened to Renee Nicole Good in Minneapolis, as well as Alex Preddy.
Yeah, I mean, I smiled for a second because I'm not easily deterred, and words, are not going to really affect, how I, help advocate for immigrants and how I advocate for fellow protesters and, how I try to observe the law and exercise my First Amendment rights. But the point you're making is a very, very serious one. And that is we've had other agents make similar comments, even more aggressive and threatening comments about, what's going to happen if you exercise your First Amendment rights. And it's a terrible, terrible environment that we're living in where the effort by the administration and individual agents is specifically tied toward intimidating people from exercising their rights.
What is, again, remarkable is the fact that this is the first instance we are now seeing local prosecutors or local law enforcement actually seeking justice and accountability against federal agents for their violations of someone's rights, their constitutional rights. How significant is this, not only as you as the victim of a crime, but also as somebody who's a lawyer and understands the importance of the rule of law?
Well, I mean, the whole thing is that from J.D. Vance saying that agents have absolute immunity to the other statements made by Kristi Noem, Border Patrol Chief Greg Bovino, who's now moved, Tom Homan, Tricia McLaughlin, the spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security. It's this whole effort to empower I'm going to call them thugs. These agents are acting like thugs, and at the same time, make sure that people are intimidated. And so the fact that we have a prosecution, which may be the first, of its kind in the nation, is very significant because agents, I think, in my view, they need to be better trained. I mean, if the administration won't do it, then hopefully it's advocates like myself and others and journalists that will say, you break the law, there will be consequences. Our Governor Pritzker has said it. The Philadelphia District Attorney has said it. We've had people across the country that are making those kind of statements, and it's got to resonate, and it really has to affect the tremendously horrific aggression that we've seen on videos from individual agents.
So I want people to really understand and have an appreciation of this. You were standing on a public sidewalk, and the way that this agent tried to make it sound was that you were aggressively shoving your phone up in his face. But the reality is you were not doing that, correct?
There's video. There's my video, which unfortunately got cut off as he was coming toward me. But the Village has a public camera, and they have that video, which I don't think is public yet. But it shows exactly what happened. But if you look at my video, it's clear that I am on a public sidewalk. I was never, ever in his face. And, lies that Tricia McLaughlin, the spokesperson for DHS, said, it's just really despicable. But look, getting away from me, there is a pattern of this administration, which is that a pattern of lies. What they do is whenever someone is injured by ICE, whenever there's interaction with ICE, the administration, and particularly the Department of Homeland Security, is always labeling people as the aggressors or people that have violated the law, or much worse, in many cases, they're labeled as members of Tren de Aragua when there isn't a single shred of evidence to support those kind of lies that they make about people.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Last week, I did an episode on this channel where I was tracing a motion by Marimar Martinez, who is from Chicago, who was shot multiple times by CBP when they lied to say that she tried to ram their vehicle and to use her vehicle to assault federal agents. The truth came out by way of body cam footage and text messages in and amongst a group chat indicating that she was not the aggressor. But to your point, that's what they say. They call everybody domestic terrorists. And in your instance, Tricia McLaughlin, the spokesperson for DHS, said that you were targeting and aggressively harassing, and that you are a known ICE agitator, and that you were stalking him, and that you had done this with, to dox this agent, et cetera. I mean, it's such inflammatory rhetoric and language, and yet it's dangerous, because it's lies, and it just fuels the flames of people looking at you exercising your constitutional rights in a negative way.
Every word that Tricia McLaughlin said about me is factually untrue. So in the language of non-lawyers, she's a fucking liar.
Amen.
Sorry to be so blunt.
Oh, but, I mean, like bluntness here.
But it's less about me. And the overall point is that in every single instance, you can look at, all the incidents where people have been shot, injured, harmed by ICE, the Border Patrol, and the related agencies. And there's always a statement about about these victims of ICE, which is factually false. And Tom Homan, just on national TV, had the gall to say, I don't know of a single instance where ICE's actions have been inappropriate.
Well, I mean, he also took a bag of $50,000, a Kava bag, right? And nobody knows what the fuck happened to the $50,000. But I mean, your point's so well taken, right? Let's take the victims, the real victims, and make them the aggressors, make them the bad people. Let's dehumanize them. Let's make them so not worthy of respect so that we can divert attention and distract from the reality, which is, it's at a minimum, they're not trained properly, Robert, but at most, they really shouldn't be in this position at all, because you really don't need funding for this department anymore. What is the status of this criminal case against Adam Saraco? I think he has an upcoming court date. Have you been able to be in touch with the state attorney's office or the DA's office about them continuing to prosecute this case?
Yeah, before I answer that, let me just interject that the consequence of the lies from the administration have real world consequences. I mean, they're real people whose families are being torn apart, whose reputations are being shattered. And look, I can take it. It's not about me, but take the gentleman who was accused of the murder for hire plot in Chicago just a couple of weeks ago. He went to a jury trial. They first told this, they accused him of trying to hire somebody to kill Bovino for $10,000. And at the time they made the arrest, they said he was a ranking member, a high up in the Latin Kings, a notorious violent gang in Chicago.
Yeah.
Guess what? At trial, there was not a single word about the alleged Latin Kings, because he's a father of three. He's a working individual. And the lies, they affect people's reputations and family relationships. And it's just, I can't really express how horrific it is that our government lies on a consistent basis. They lie as easily as you and I breathe. So in my case, in this criminal case, there's a March 24th hearing for Adam Saraco. He's been charged, as you point out, with misdemeanor Class A battery. And the police and the state's attorney did a very thorough investigation. I was fully cooperative. They have, camera footage of exactly what happened from a public camera. And I can say that they acted so professionally and deliberately in bringing the charges. It's really, it's just an honor to be a citizen where you have a jurisdiction that's acting so professionally and appropriately.
Well, and Robert, I got to say this, right? I mean, I've got to pull on this thread though. Your camera may have cut off at the moment of this guy, battering you and continuing to do so. But this is what we've been relying upon. We can't trust these federal agents. I mean, I understand this guy was off duty at the time, but we can't trust them to actually be able to be truthful or to record things accurately, which is why we've been relying upon all that bystander eyewitness video for Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy and others, right? That's what we've needed to be able to show that this administration has been lying, which is why you exercising your constitutional rights and legal rights to be able to just record somebody in a public space regardless of why you're doing it, right? Like, that's really important. That's another big takeaway from this prosecution of Adam Siracco. You are allowed to do this, and they're trying to tell you otherwise. This administration is lying to people and making it seem like if you're just recording people or even following people at a safe distance and not violating traffic laws, that you're obstructing and impeding, and they're using that as an excuse to kill people these days.
It is really horrible. Everybody should be recording. Governor Pritzker, for all his faults, has at least said the right things, that you should record, have your camera ready, have your battery charged up, and record, period. Full stop. But, the larger point, I guess, that I'm making is that even take the case of Alex Preddy. We've got multiple angles of cameras, but yet the administration is, basically said that he brandished a weapon at first. They made all these statements about what he was doing that are just inconsistent. I'm talking like a lawyer again, right? They said that he was the aggressor, and that's inconsistent with the video that we can all see. And again, in the vernacular, they just lie.
Well, they don't want us to trust our own eyes. They don't want us to believe our own eyes, because it would just further buttress the reality, which is they're hell-bent on terrorizing people and killing people at this point. Robert, you're not just out there in the streets doing what you're doing. You're still also in court, and you're actually the plaintiff in a pretty significant lawsuit I wanted to highlight for our viewers. It's against the village of Broadview in Illinois. And why did you bring this lawsuit, and what is it about?
So Broadview is a place where there's a processing center, what we call a detention center, because they do more than processing there, subject of numerous lawsuits for inhumane conditions, the way they've treated immigrants. I was there for 8 hours in late September when I was detained by Border Patrol. And I brought that suit because the village itself, not any federal government, but the village mayor issued an executive order severely restricting the hours that we could protest. And of course, Broadview was a central point for people to express their First Amendment rights, to bear witness to what was happening in that facility that was so horribly treating immigrants. And so that restriction is a violation of our right to the First Amendment, peaceably assemble. And so I brought a federal lawsuit against the village in order to enjoin the village from enforcing that executive order and to expand the hours at which people can protest.
And what is the status of that lawsuit?
So we filed a motion to enjoin, to get a preliminary injunction to prevent the village from enforcing it while the rest of the lawsuit plays out. And we had an evidentiary hearing just this past Friday on that motion for a preliminary injunction. There were several witnesses, including myself, that testified. The judge asked the parties to file briefs on the legal arguments about what he should do. And he said he would rule approximately February 23rd or so this month.
And Robert, you and I were together in the same area code last week in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I had mentioned at the beginning of this episode that you were there and that you've also been at Dilley in Texas, et cetera. But I want to talk about Whipple, because Whipple Federal is like Broadview, right? It is kind of the epicenter of immigration enforcement in Minneapolis, St. Paul. When you and I were last together on a quick episode, you were protesting outside of Whipple. It was very cold. It was snowing. But they didn't have what I remarked were these new physical barriers that they've erected. And so across from the entrance through the chute, as they call it, into and out of Whipple, they now have, as I showed to our viewers last week, they have concrete barriers, very high chain link fences. You saw that as well. And there was something new last week as well, which I know you saw. There's drones now. They're using drones to be able to capture us. I also noted that a lot of these agents, as they're going, these federal agents, as they're going in and out of Whipple, they're using their own cell phones to record our images across the street. Your thoughts about this escalation, even by the feds on their end, in terms of trying to create even more barriers to people being able to protest and let their thoughts be known?
Okay, well, we should be clear. I want everybody to protest. I want that can protest. Please be out there, join the ranks. But at the same time, we should understand that they've been electronically monitoring the protesters. They have video and audio recording. You point out they have drones now as well. So that's all out there. And the agents that come by with their phones out, whether they are trying merely to intimidate protesters or actually using, I think, most people know that the government has an application where agents can take video of a person's face and then get their personal information just based on the facial recognition technology. So whether they're actually using that or it's simply to try to intimidate, I don't know. But they go by, and if I have my bullhorn, every agent should know that there's going to be consequences. There is accountability. We have many of their biometric information. And for those agents that violate the law, there will be consequences. Our governor has said the same thing. Other politicians have made that statement. And our former mayor, Lightfoot, has a commission where she's gathering data in order to turn that data over to a prosecutor at an appropriate time.
I always like to ask you this question because you seem almost like the unlikely hero of this story, Robert, because you have a job of being a lawyer and you have a family and you are somebody who could easily turn an eye or shoulder to what is happening right now. But you have really thrown yourself into the fray, and not just in your backyard of Chicago, but across the United States where there is suffering and where there is injustice. Why? Why do it, and why continue to do it?
I've been described as somebody who has a heightened sense of justice. But I think more than that, I know that, I have certain characteristics which allows me to not be intimidated by Gregory Bovino, Border Patrol, or any of the statements that the administration is making. I have the resources to stand up, to speak out, to resist in a way where I'm not afraid of Tom Homan or anybody. And the fact is that people with less resources, with less of a powerful voice, that are maybe less articulate, that maybe don't have legal status in this country, that maybe can't even speak English, but are here, a country that used to welcome guests, where on the bottom of the Statue of Liberty, we say, bring us your cold, your tired, your poor, your huddled masses. And why can't we be that country that we used to be? Why are we putting up with the incredible, atrocious, illegal, unconstitutional conduct that the administration is doing? Why can't we just live peacefully? People just want to raise their kids. They want to go to work. They want to go to the mall. Let's go back to the way we were before this incredible, tragic effort that this administration is doing, which is racist and worse.
I'll add a friendly amendment as you and I part ways, my good friend Robert, which is, I don't want to go back to where we were. I want to actually make something better. And I actually think that the silver lining to all of this that we are going through, this national trauma, is that we are going to build something better, and that it's going to be something that we all deserve. But I'm grateful for you, Robert Held, for continually to hold the line the way that you do, and for bringing and exposing the truth, because it's exactly what we need. So thanks for being here again, my friend. It's good to see
Katie,
you.
and thanks to you and to all the journalists that are standing between the administration and our rights, because it's the journalists who are under attack, by the way, with Don Lemon and Ms. Fort and everybody else, and the journalist in Washington whose home was searched by the FBI. The attack on journalists is real. It's pervasive. And thank you for everything that you do, because you're standing up to the administration by being a journalist who's unafraid.
I appreciate you. It's good to see you.
Great to see you.
Katie Phang here. We launched the Katie Phang News Channel in partnership with the Midas Touch Network so we could bring you the latest in legal and political news. Straight, no chaser. So if you're a fellow truth teller, hit that subscribe button and share the word about this channel so we can build a high information America together.